Russ at the Meigs Point. I'm not in the nature center right now. I'm out at the trailhead to our Willard's Island Trail. So I want to remind everybody all of the things that you should be doing. And we tried a little song thing. I rushed right through it and I didn't give you guys an opportunity to learn what all the parts of this were. So let's do it. Everybody do this together with me. We're just going to do the motions. So the first thing you need to do is cough into your elbow. So when you say cough into your elbow like that. You can't hear me when I do that, can you? The next thing is wash your hands. And you need to use soapy water and for 2 minutes. So wash your hands, use soapy water, 2 minutes. The next thing was keep back. So we hop back, keep 6 feet back. Okay. Stay at home is a new one. So we're going to stay at home, which is stay at home. And then the last thing is don't touch your face. Okay. So let's everybody do it together. Cough into your elbow, wash your hands, use soapy water, 2 minutes please. Keep back 6 feet and stay at home and don't touch your face. Okay, so we're going to work on this. I'm just learning it myself too. We can learn it together. We'll do it each morning, each afternoon. Before long, all of you guys will be doing it better than me. If you're really good at this, why don't you take a video and send it in? I'd love to see you guys doing this. Okay. We need to remind everybody, Connecticut's parks are open to the public. So come on down, hike. You're going to hear people walking past me because I'm by one of the trails. But remember that social distance. We really need to keep people apart. All right. Hammonasset is really big and it takes a lot of people for it to get crowded. But actually this weekend it got a little bit crowded. There are loads of other awesome parks. If you're near Mansfield Hollow, there's a great trail over there. We've got Devil's Hop Yard. I love the trails up at Devil's Hop Yard. There are lots of open trails that you can go to. Connecticut has lots of forests. Patchogue State Forest has miles and miles of trails. You could hike there for the rest of the summer and not see all the trails. Concaponset, there's lots of trails over there. So get out and enjoy these open spaces. Keep your social distance. You can go with your families. Obviously, you don't have to keep social distance with the people that are in your house. But everyone else, you need to make sure you keep your social distances. Okay? So today we're outside because we're talking about a tree. Instead of doing an animal that we have in the nature center, I thought it'd be nice for me to get out, get some fresh air. So we are looking at this tree right here. This is a red cedar. Now, many of you have probably heard of red cedars. They're a really beautiful tree that we have all over Connecticut, especially along the shoreline. And I have a little cross section here of the red cedar. So the thing that makes red cedars really important to people is there are oils in the wood that prevent bugs from being able to eat the red cedar. We learned this a long time ago, so we build furniture, especially chests and closets that we want to keep bugs out of. We want to keep our nice linens and things from moths eating holes in them. So if you have a nice blanket, you're going to stick it into a cedar chest and the bugs won't get in and eat your really nice blanket. All right, the oils from this tree are really great for that. They also smell really good. So I really enjoy the smell of cedar. Now, the cedar is not actually in the cedar family. It's called a red cedar, but it's in the juniper family. Junipers are related to cypress trees. So if you've heard of cypress trees around the world, there are cypress trees. The juniper is in that family. Cedars are actually more related to pines. Okay, so there's a little bit of a difference. I always learned it as a red cedar juniper, but most people just know it as a red cedar. It's in the juniper family. You can identify it. It does have shaggy bark. I don't know if you can see the bark back there. We're going to walk over and look at another one that we can get closer to the bark in a little bit, but it has sort of shaggy bark. Only the center heartwood is going to be that beautiful red color. The outer rings are going to be this whitish color. Now, let's talk about the rings. As a tree grows, it gets these growth rings, right? Now, a growth ring doesn't necessarily mean a year. That is a season of growth. Occasionally, what will happen is we'll get springtime rings, and then if it's a really dry summer, the tree will stop growing, and then when it starts to rain again in the fall, it will grow and you might get another ring. So you could possibly get 2 rings in 1 year. Sometimes there's so little growth, it's such a hard year that you don't get a new ring for a year. So we always say this is a really good reading of growth seasons, which really averages out to years, because typically it's going to be 1 ring per year. It's very unusual that those other things happen, but it is possible, so we need to keep that in mind. You can also see sometimes you get a little mark here. This is from a branch. There was a branch growing out here and the tree grew around it. This is one here as well. Okay, so this would be actually the bottom of the tree. This would be the top of the tree with these branches coming out, because the branches on this tree angle just slightly upward. Some trees, they angle down. Now, one of the things that's really cool about the red cedar juniper is they get berries. Okay? I'm going to pick the berries. I do not encourage you to go out and start taking pieces off of a tree, but so that I can show you what we do with these, okay? I don't know if you can see these little bluish berries. That tells me that this red cedar is a girl, all right? Cedars are one of the trees that have boy trees and girl trees. There's a boy over here, no berries all year, won't have any berries. The girl tree right here will have berries. They harvest these berries, and actually they make a drink that all of the adults out there might be interested in. You can make gin out of these berries, okay? Now, a very long time ago, I was learning about the juniper tree, and somebody crushed up the berries, and I smelled them, and it smells really bad. To me, it smelled awful. Well, they took a picture of me going like this, and the next year I saw that picture in our training video, so it was kind of funny. Okay, now, another thing about the cedar tree, so we have boys and girls, but also this tree gets a fungus. It's called cedar apple rust. And it will get a little thing that looks like a brown rotten apple growing on the cedar tree. For part of its life, that's a fungus that grows on the cedar tree. It needs an apple tree. So out on Willard Island, we have apple trees. You can only get the cedar apple rust if you have both cedars and apples that live near one another. Because part of its life stage, the first part, is going to be on that cedar tree, and then the next part is on an apple tree, and the fungus will grow back and forth. Each new successive generation of the fungus is on a different tree. So they move around. It's really cool. They have to be together for this fungus to survive. Really an unusual thing in nature, but it's pretty awesome. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to try and move over and take a look at, another tree. Okay, so this tree that we're coming to, you can see the trunk a little bit better. And we're going to go right up in here. Now I'm going to do a warning right now that whenever you come up to a tree, look out for these vines right here. You can see this right here and this one here. Those are old poison ivy vines. You can tell because they've got the shaggy roots are actually coming out of the poison ivy. Now this one was cut off a long time ago, and it's pretty rotten, so I probably won't get poison ivy from it, but you can get poison ivy from any part of the plant at any time of the year. So you never want to just walk up and start touching a vine that's growing up the tree. But if you look here, you can see we've got some shagginess to the bark of the cedar tree. There's a lot of branches coming off, all right? It's a pretty thick tree. The ones that are growing close to other trees aren't going to have as many branches around them. This tree's growing in the open, so the trees are able to grow right from the bottom. All right, and if you look here, this is probably a male, a boy, because it doesn't have any berries on it. Okay. All right. Do we have time for some questions? Let's see if I can see some questions.
How old are the trees?
How old are the trees? So trees can live quite a while. Cedars, I'm not sure their full lifespan, but the one that I had over there, I counted over 30 rings. So they can get at least 30 years old. I would say probably these guys could get 90 or 100 years old pretty easily.
How tall can they grow?
So this is not one of the bigger trees. The question was, how tall can they grow? Not one of the biggest trees that we have in Connecticut. It's not like an oak or like a white pine, probably half of the size of those trees. This is a good size right here. So if we can move back so you can see how tall it is. This is probably a 25-foot tree. I maybe have seen a 30-foot tree, so not really, really large trees.
Are there cedar trees in every state?
There's a good question. Are there cedar trees in every state? The eastern cedar, like its name, is found east of the Mississippi and all up and down the eastern coast. So all of the states east of the Mississippi have them. I think it goes over in a couple of places west of the Mississippi. But no, that's just the eastern U.S. So if you're out west, you're probably not going to see these. Wants to know how tall they get. They get 30 feet tall.
How did they get the name Cedar?
So that's a good question. I already mentioned that the cedar is not actually in the cedar family. Common names tend to just happen over time, and I'm guessing that that's how this tree got its name. People just started calling it a cedar tree, and everybody else called it a cedar tree, and they didn't really look into the fact that yes it was or no it wasn't. Let's see, Sam is wondering why they have red stuff in the middle. That's a good question. There are many trees that have that reddish color. That's just a pigment in there. I don't know that there's any significance to the red pigment within the trunk of the tree. The oils that prevent bugs from eating it are all the way through, not just the red part, but they're in the white part as well. So we'll see if we can find out if there's any other significance to the red versus the white part of the tree. Do the leaves change color in the winter? So this is an evergreen. It is in the evergreen family. So they don't. They're going to stay pretty much green. Occasionally you might see one with a yellow tinge, and that generally has more to do with the condition of the tree, a drought season or something like that. The red cedars stay pretty green for most of the year. How common are they? They are very, very common on the coasts, okay, and in transitional areas. A transitional area is someplace like if you have a field that is turning into a forest, that's a transition area. So after you get shrubs growing in it, they're going to start to grow in fields. So you can find them in what used to be a field and any area like the edge of a forest that's transitioning into a forest, and then along the coast. They really love the shoreline. They're really durable. They can endure the salt spray that we get off the water, so they can survive out here really well.
Are there any other differences between male and females, and are there other trees that show that?
Are there any other differences between the male and the female? That's the only one that I know of. But the other part of the question is, are there other plants that have male and female? And yes, there are quite a few, a lot more than people realize. But there are several that you can tell the males from the females. And generally, if a tree has a fruiting body, it's going to be the female versus the male. For the other ones as well, it's the same way to tell them apart. Okay. Why are they dry? Sometimes I mentioned they might turn color if it's just a dry season. So not a lot of rain in the summer, then they might turn color a little bit. but they can survive right here along the edge of the marsh. So the ground does get pretty moist. All right, we're going to walk back over here. You can see all of these cedars all behind me here. Okay, so we're back to our starting point here. I want to remind everyone to go to our website, meigspointnaturecenter.org. Visit our learning center. You can add your comments, add your photos, work on that little rhyme we did earlier. Please help me out with that. But you can put all of this stuff up in the Learning Center. We are adding videos all the time. We're going to be putting, vocabulary words next to it so you can learn more about it. Look up these vocabulary words yourself and find out what they all mean. You can also look for educational content. So we are going to be doing word searches, hopefully some scavenger hunts, all sorts of things. There are also links to other DEP facilities. We're part of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, so you'll be able to link to the Kellogg Environmental Center, the Goodwin Conservation Center, and Dinosaur State Park, and they're all putting up content, great stuff for you guys to learn more about the things that are here in Connecticut. And if you're not from Connecticut, you can still learn about these animals because a lot of the things that we're talking about are found all over the US. So please make sure you tell me where you're from, send us some comments, pictures, whatever you want, and we'll try and respond to as many of them as we can. Thank you, and again, this is Ranger Russ from the Meigs Point Nature Center.